Welcome. We are exploring steps for Vedic Mathematics referencer. Sequentially, we have reached volume 7. Volume 7 is focusing upon the mathematical domain of Ganita Sutras-7 along with Upsutra-7. Sutra 7 is Sankalna Vyakalna Bhyam. Upsutra 7 is Yavdunam Tavdunya Kritye Vargam Cha Yojet. This volume, being seventh in sequence, as such, naturally is to have a concentration initiation at value 7, and these 6 volumes will be impliedly available as a background or at the foundation level. Value 7 is important as it is the biggest prime numeral of 10 place value system. Further, as that cube, our 3 space body, hypercube 3, is having 7 geometries range. 3 space has 7 geometries. And parallel to it, the hypercube is having 7 versions, and these 7 versions of hypercube are the representative regular bodies of 3 space. Further, we know that 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 is equal to 28, and it is the TC value of a Brahm, the ultimate attainment of the Vedic systems. These features as such are inherently available. Now, the value 10, this sutra is having 24 letters, which is of the value 6 cross 4, and 10 is equal to 6 plus 4, means total value is going to be 34. Then further we know that 5 space is having 11 versions, and it has 11 directional frame. In 3 space we have only a reach in terms of 10 directions. However, the additional direction which will take us away from the setup of a cube, that means in terms thereof we will enter a 4 space. So this 11th direction for the cube will transform cube from its static state to a dynamic state. Further, value 85, which is the TCV value, these are the 11 distinct letters. These are the 10 syllables. So total letters are 10, taking us to parallel to the dimensional frame of a 6 space. So letters 24 are being availed parallel to the dimensional frame of a 6 space. The syllables, the total syllables of these are 10, and it as such is parallel to the creative boundary of 10 components of 5 space. So when we are at the transcendental space, it has 11 versions. G5 is 11, and this space is enveloped within a creative boundary of 10 components. A raised to power 5 is to 10. So we are having 10 syllables, we are having 11 distinct letters, and this 6 space with a strip off will be dimensionalizing the outer space as a 6 space, and this space is of the dimensional frame. So the letters are 24, syllables are 10, and the distinct letters are 11. These are the features. Now the TC value is 85, and this TC value 85 is equal to a setup of a 5 space enveloped within a creative boundary of 10 components, and each creative component itself is enveloped within a solid boundary of 8 components. It makes 8 into 10, and here the dimensional frame is a solid dimensional frame of 5 solid dimensions. So in all it makes 85 cubes a setup, and we know this value 85 is parallel to 85 unwalks. 85 unwalk of Sakal Rigved Samhita, the source scripture. This way we see that these very features which are in the immediate available being utilized for the composition of this script, this text takes us to all these features. Now let us see Upsutra-7. Upsutra-7 is having 40 letters, 16 syllables, 19 distinct letters, and 140 TC value. Now we know the transcendental space is enveloped within a creative boundary of 10 components, which makes 40 coordinates, and parallel to it here are the letters. Then this 5 space we know is having 6 space in the role of an origin, and when this domain will split, it will have a transcendence for a 6 space, and it will lead to transcendence form 565 of summation value 16. Further we know that the space 5 space is a synthetic setup of a pair of parts, upper part and a lower part, and we know this split is of a northern hemisphere of value 17 and a southern hemisphere of value 19. Therefore, these 19 value of southern hemisphere in fact is giving us to the distinct letters. And step ahead, when this transcendental domain within a creative boundary of 10 components, and we know 4 space is 2, 3, 4 and 5 of summation value 14, and there are as many as 10 creative components, it makes value 140. Therefore, when we shall be at the creative foundation of volume 7 with the mathematical domain of Sutra 7 and Upsutra-7, then we will be having an availability of this text with us. And this text, as we have seen here, as far as the Sutra 7 is concerned, is yielding us these features, and Upsutra-7 is yielding us these features. Therefore, the sadhkas fulfilled with intensity of urge to be parallel with Vedic mathematics systems shall, for applied values, begin with volume 7. Why for applied values we have to begin at Sutra 7, as it is the biggest prime of this range. It is the full range of the geometries of a 3 space. So our 3 space is having a full expression as a range of 7 geometries, and this full range of 7 geometries will have a parallel range of representative regular bodies being the different 7 versions of hypercube. 3 means the cube, means the solids. So our 3 space in which we want to have a starting point, then this start will take us to the format of values range 1 to 7 parallel to the 7 geometries range of 3 space, and making available the geometries, the representative geometric bodies. This availability as such will also help us appreciate that the first letter being availed is SAW, which is of value 3, and it is the Ushmana letter. As such, it is going to be a solid transcendental path. This solid transcendental path will be available at the origin of a 4 space, as origin of 4 space is a seat of a transcendental origin. So 5 space as an origin, when will permit a transcendence, it will permit a transcendence for a solid dimensional axis. And because of the transcendence within a creator's space, which itself is a spatial order space, therefore the transcendental domain will split into a pair of transcendental domains of half solid dimensions. It is this feature which deserves to be comprehended well as the Vedic mathematics chase of this universe in terms of the physical matter is in terms of half-dimensional frames. So the concept of a half-dimensional frame is the basic concept, and this concept is being at present not availed, not utilized, not comprehended, not imbibed, not worked out by the modern system. However, the Vedic mathematics begins with this concept, as in each corner point of a cube is embedded a dimensional frame of half dimensions. So split of a 3-dimensional frame into a pair of 3-dimensional frames of half dimensions is the feature, is the distinguishing feature, or in fact it is the characteristic feature. It is the feature in terms of which we can have proper initiation for chasing the universe in terms of Vedic mathematics. Now, dimensional frame splits, and this split of a dimensional frame as such would mean that there is happening a transcendence for the origin. So origin of a 3-dimensional frame gets a transcendence. So 3-dimensional frame splits into 3-dimensional frame of half dimensions, and both become a independent 3-dimensional frames. So value 3 can be written as 1 plus 1 plus 1, and also it can be written as 3 is equal to 2 over 2 plus 2 over 2 plus 2 over 2. One may have a pause here and take note that this phenomenon is happening within a creator's space, and the creator's space is a spatial order space. So here in 4 space we will be having as many as quadruple spatial dimensions. So plane is playing the role of a dimension, and it permits a split. It is this split of a spatial plane as well is at work, and it is this split which is ultimately to bring us face to face as to how the square as a pair of triangles in 3 space will making a split for a 3 space as of a prisms. And once we have a pair of prisms available, and here we will be having a flow, and it is going to be a flow for a 13th edged cube. It is within a 4 space that our solid cube of 12 edges acquires an additional 13th edge. It is this acquisition of the 13th edge by these solids in their dynamic state in 4 space which becomes the another basic concept, foundational concept, which is to be comprehended fully, which is to be imbibed completely. One is to permit the transcending mind to be parallel to this phenomenon of solids transiting and transforming from their static states to the dynamic states. So what happens? We have a cube in a static state. We have solids in a static state. Moment it transits and transforms into a dynamic state, that means the cube starts translating. Now it is this 3-dimensional frame which acquires a 4th dimension. So this shift from static state to dynamic state is in fact a shift from 3 space to a 4 space. Therefore one shall sit comfortably and permit the transcending mind to completely comprehend and imbibe this feature, as that the space in which we are existing is not a 3 space. It is only a 3 space static state being comprehended by us. And moment the solids are in a dynamic state, then this space becomes a 4 space. So all the laws of 3 space are immediately transiting into this of 4 space. 3 space is having a setup of 3 linear dimensions, and 4 space is having a setup of quadruple spatial dimensions. So it is 3. Now this edge, which appears to be a linear, but it is within a plane. So it is a line within a plane. So in fact it is of a spatial format. It is the 4th dimension. Now the cube, when is in a static state in a 3 space, you see it is framed by a 10 directional frames. There are 10 directions which are having a fixation for the phenomenon of a 3 space. However, when this cube is in a dynamic state, it will be reaching a 4 space, and here the additional directions will be available. So what is to be observed properly for its proper comprehension and appreciation is that this 10 directional frame transforms into 11 directional frame, and the 12 edged cube transforms into a 13 edged cube, and it is equal to the 11 geometries of 5 space, and it is equal to 13 geometries of a 6 space. So these transitions and transformations are happening. Once these transition and transformations are happening, then the volume 7 as such, which is going to be a 7th sutra, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Now in between we will be having 6 gaps. Up till this there will be 6 gaps. It makes value 13, and it is going to be parallel to 7 non-negative geometries of 6 space and 13 total geometries of 6 space. This feature as such is also to come into play moment we will be availing the integrated format of the text of Ganita Sutras and Upsutras. It is this integrated format which will further help us appreciate that the Ganita Sutra, first, the source sutra of the structural keys, is having, see, first letter, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth. Now, seventh letter is again it is a value 6. So, this format, which had started originally with value 6, Ekadhiken Purve, the same again at the 7th sutra is reverting back to 6. So it is a chakra. So we are now in a cyclic state. It is this cyclic state chakra is of TC value 6. It is a Surya Ank. So the sun, whose light, Prakash, is of value 13. So how is it that this universe is being organized, being managed, and being of a changeable format upon the sunlight? Therefore, the sadhakas are fulfilled with the intensity of urge to be parallel with Vedic systems have to chase Ganita Sutras in a sequentially and sequential organization, and at the stage of volume 7, a reach would be when we will be having a chase for an earth from its static state to a dynamic state, which is having a revolutions around its axis as well as around the sun. It is this dynamic state phenomenon of the earth in our solar universe which becomes the subject matter of applied values of Ganita Sutra-7. So volume 7 as such may be taken as the initiation volume, the first volume for the students of Vedic mathematics whose prime interest is only in the applied values. Those who want to be parallel with the applied values of the Vedic mathematics shall initiate with volume 7, with Sutra 7, in the context of the dynamic state of an earth. It is this dynamic state of an earth which is the prime motivation. So, students of applied Vedic mathematics, students of Vedic technologies may initiate themselves with volume 7, which is availing the Ganita Sutra-7 and Ganita Upsutra-7. And Ganita Upsutra-7 is clearly indicating that how the format of a square, how the spatial dimension which creates for space is of prime importance. We may have a pause here and take note that in the entire text of 16 sutras and Upsutras, Varg is the only geometric formulation which is being availed, and it is because it is of a Euro-dimensional order. It is because that the dimensional synthesis phenomenon of unified structured points is coming into manifested form only in squares. Now in the subsequent sessions, for a subsequent 7-8 sessions, we will be focusing upon this volume 7, and we will try to settle the form and in which way the one may have initiation for pure and applied values, and the way it shall be made a teaching subject, and the way its textbook deserves to be organized, and way we shall from this volume proceed both ways, from Sutra 7 back to Sutra 1, and from Sutra 7 to Sutra 14. Eka Nyunen Purve. Therefore, Ekadhikain Purve and Eka Nyunen Purve will be both flow lines which will be emerging from the center. So, in this universe, our existence phenomenon as it is, it permits a chase only from the middle. So, we can't have a start from the end points which are at infinity. We are having limitations and we have to begin with the middle. When we will initiate from the middle and we will proceed on both sides, but proceeding on both sides is not going to be the way we are taking it to be 1 and minus 1 at present. Plus 1 is going to be one space as a domain, and minus 1 will be making it a one space as a dimension of plus 1 space. Thank you very much.